You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. Monday, October 27th. Thank you guys so much for starting your week with us, your work week with us, if you will. I have 3 or 4 kids at home today. No school for my younger 3. My older one had to go to school. He's in high school. He wasn't too happy, but a beautiful day to be out of school. So if you're working, if you're in school, whatever you're doing, thank you for taking the time to join us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. If you're watching us on YouTube, we always thank you for that. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you have not, shame on you. Do that ASAP. It helps us out a ton. And also tell a friend or 2 or 10 about what we're doing right here in the Quad Cities each and every weekday. So we got a lot to get to once again today. If you're watching us on X, thank you. We're live on X. X is always very good to us. You can check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well, whether it's Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Podbean, you name it. You type in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo and you can listen to the show each and every day. We also welcome our viewers in Central Iowa. It's been over a month since you guys have put up with me. I appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the compliments, all that kind of stuff. It's been a fun ride. We got plenty to talk about this week and for the months to come as well. We did a post pod for college football on Saturday. Thank you to everybody who watched that. Numbers were outstanding. Everyone's excited about college football. We spent a vast majority of it talking about Iowa's victory over Minnesota. We'll talk more about that today. We also touched on the Illini and Iowa State both suffering tough losses. Illinois on the road to Washington, and then of course Iowa State losing at home to BYU. So check that show out if you'd like to as well. That's from Saturday. We won't do one this weekend because I will be in Detroit, Michigan, checking out the Lions this weekend. So, but we'd like to do that each and every weekend. So keep an eye out for those as well. We have a very busy show to get to today. Coming up in a matter of moments, we'll be joined by Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register, great beat writer for the Hawkeyes, to talk a lot about Iowa. Iowa with an impressive 41-3 victory over the weekend against Minnesota. I went to social media to X and to Facebook. The responses are always great. And all I simply said, which is true, is that since a disappointing loss to Indiana, Iowa has gone 3-0, beating 2 rivals by a combined 78-3. And then, of course, beating Penn State along the way as well. I know Penn State's down with a new coach and a new quarterback and all that kind of stuff. But it was a tipping point for Iowa, whether they would come off the bye against Indiana, play well and go this way, or they could have easily gone that way. And the reason why they're going this way is because of the head coach and the coaching staff and the culture and what it is. And, of course, a lot of Iowa fans probably agree with that. The vocal minority disagree with a lot of that and still have plenty to complain about, which is completely fine. And the rival fan bases will say the same as well. But bottom line is Iowa was a dominant victor on Saturday, beating the Gophers 41-3 in a game that was over early second quarter. So we'll talk about that with Tyler coming up. Usually Pat Anger joins us on Monday. Pat and myself are going to go talk at the Moline Rotary this afternoon, right after the show. Pat pushing till tomorrow. So if you're expecting Pat Anger, you can't be that disappointed. But we'll have Pat tomorrow on the show. Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register going to join me in a little bit too. We just flipped those 2 around, and we'll talk a lot about Iowa's victory over Minnesota in just a little bit. Also, the high school football playoffs are set in Iowa and in Illinois. It's a fun week. I remember my previous life, my previous job, this would be, and I'm talking early in my job, Dan Burrich would always try to get me to get to as many high schools this week as possible to preview playoff matchups because so many teams were in the postseason. Everyone was excited. So that's what we're going to try to do this week. We're going to try to get to as many schools and get to as many coaches and players as we can throughout the week. So today we're going to be joined by Nick Welch coming up later in hour number 1. United Township in the postseason for the first time since 2001. They're excited. They should be a talented team that's had their ups and downs this year, but a great group of young men. I'll talk about it more in the show, but we've been to 9 high schools this year for our off the air on the road, and they've all been great. But these UT kids were the only ones that stuck around and helped clean up and stuff, and they had to get back to class. I'm not bashing other kids, but really a good group of young men. So excited for Nick Welch, his guys, and we'll be joined by him coming up later in the show as well. On the Iowa side of things, we're down to just 7 schools from our Quad City area, and I look at that like my old viewing area. Just 7 schools remaining, but one of them is Central DeWitt. And they're heading to Wahlert for a rematch of a game they lost 17-12 earlier this year. Their head coach, Clay Waterbury, will be joining us coming up in hour number 2 to talk about the Sabres' fantastic season, 7-2, and they're 9 points away from being 9-0. And they're in the postseason for the first time in a little while. So we'll talk with Coach Waterbury coming up in a little bit as well. And then we'll wrap up the show with a little old school sports talk. We'll talk about everything that's happened around the world of sports this past weekend when it comes to the hot topics, if you will, with my good friend John Marx as well. So Marxy Monday coming up in hour number 2 as well. So we have a jam-packed, loaded show, a lot to get to. As we mentioned, Iowa, an impressive victory this weekend. They're now 6-2. They're not ranked in the AP Top 25, which will make a bunch of Iowa fans cranky, but it is what it is. And the path to the playoffs is still there for Iowa. It's not there for Illinois. We'll talk more about that with John Marks later in the show, but they fall on the road to Washington. They're now 5-3 on the season. You look at Illinois' schedule, they have 4 very winnable games coming up. They should finish 9 wins. Yes, it's a little disappointing you didn't make the college football playoffs. That was the goal this season. But if you're an Illinois football fan and everything you've been through, if you're following up a 10-win season with a 9-win regular season with a chance at a 10th victory in a bowl game, you would take it every single day. The one thing I worry about Illinois about, and we'll talk about it later, is their losses. Their combined score is 139-51. So they've been blown out. Now, mind you, that's number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Indiana, and a good Washington team on the road. So nothing to be ashamed of. Just the margin of victory hasn't been very close. So we'll talk Illinois later in the show as well. Iowa State with a disappointing loss at home to BYU. Jake Brend will be with us on Wednesday to talk about all of that as well. NFL-wise, the Bears come back down to earth a little bit. They lose 30-16 in a game that saw no Lamar Jackson and a great opportunity for Chicago. The Bears defense didn't take the football away, and I think that's been the biggest key to their 4-game winning streak, and they didn't run the football. And when that happens, usually bad things happen. And Caleb Williams wasn't good. He hasn't been bad all year. I'm not bashing him 100%, but it wasn't pretty when it came to the Bears offense. Only 16 points against a defense that's been giving up a lot of points this year. They did get some guys back, but it was a disappointing Sunday, I think, if you're the Bears. The fact that Lamar Jackson, we find out over the weekend, isn't going to play, it was an opportunity for them. They'll get back to the drawing board. They are at Cincinnati coming up next weekend as well. More Bears talk later in the show as well. The Packers get a big victory last night over the Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers 35-25, the final in that one. Also, make sure you check out all of the high school football pairings on both sides of the river. Our guys from View from the West doing a great job with that, so go make sure you're following them. We'll talk more high school football coming up later in the show as well. Also, other fall sports taking center stage, and we're not ignoring them. We'll have a little soccer, a little volleyball throughout the week here as well. But we're going to start our Monday talking about what everybody's been talking about all weekend, an impressive performance by the Iowa Hawkeyes on Saturday afternoon into the evening at Kinnick Stadium. So we start our Monday talking Hawks, and we're joined now by our good friend Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register on the Hawkeye beat. He was at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday. I guess, Tyler, there's so many ways to go with this entire game. But when you look at that game, what's the headline that comes out of Iowa's dominating 41-3 victory over the Golden Gophers?
I think it's just that Iowa's like a legitimate team. They're a dangerous team. They've continued to build the momentum since, the end of the Indiana game, first bye week, you kind of didn't know where this team was at. How are they going to bounce back from that? What's Mark Gronowski's health? And the last 3 weeks have been a pretty resounding statement. You go into Wisconsin, and I know Wisconsin's been struggling, but that's a team that you felt like was going to be motivated, and Iowa just beat the brakes off of them. And then you finally kind of get over the hump against one of those more traditional Big Ten beasts in Penn State, which they had, just even though they didn't have James Franklin in their starting quarterback, there's a lot of emotions for that. And then it felt like, to me, Minnesota set up to be like a real emotional letdown for Iowa, just the way they were coming off of that big win over Penn State. But Minnesota didn't even look like they belonged on the same field as Iowa. Like, it was just an absolute, from beginning to end, beat down. 3 phases of the game, Iowa scores at least 1 touchdown in all 3 phases. So to me, it's just like there's still life left in this season. Iowa is a good football team and dangerous at this point. I'm not sure that I would want to see them on the schedule if I was someone in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, you mentioned both teams coming off such big victories the week before. So I was curious to see how that played out. Iowa took won the toss and they received, which of course some Minnesota people next to me were shocked by that. And I'm like, you're not paying attention because that's what Coach Ferentz does. They go down the field and score a touchdown. I think that kind of set the tone. But Tyler, it was 20 minutes into the game, and I think I tweeted out or put out like they had a rushing touchdown, a field goal, a passing touchdown, a defensive touchdown, and a special teams touchdown. Have you ever seen anything like that where in 20 minutes of football clock, a team did so many things in so many different facets of the game?
It felt similar to the Wisconsin game a little bit. Iowa didn't have the special teams touchdown against Wisconsin, but they made those big plays on defense early on in the game. And I don't know if you could have drawn it up really any better. Bo Stevens going down with the injury was probably like the biggest flaw in the game, or thing that you walk away with a little bit concerned. Kirk Ferentz after the game didn't seem like really alarmed by that, which is a good thing for Iowa's offensive line. But it was just start to finish. And that's what, I get with Wisconsin and Minnesota. Like, you look at those teams and maybe they don't have the best resumes, but what's impressive is not that Iowa won the game, but the fashion in which they won. Like, there was zero thought that either one of, who was the better team. There was zero doubt about it. Like, Iowa went in both of those games and did what they were supposed to do and did it without many flaws at all.
Tyler, when you look at the defense, it's been a good defense, but the first 3 weeks of the season, everybody was like, why can't they take the football away? What's going on? And a lot of people, and I think myself, I said, it's a good defense, but it's a nameless defense. Maybe the first 3 weeks of the season where I didn't know if there was a standout or a star. Everybody was just really good. And now you look at that defense and you can say Aaron Graves is a dude, and pick a guy in the backfield. Zach Lutmer might be their best defensive player right now. And Xavier Wampa was Big Ten Defensive Player of the week last week. And Cohen Entringer's been playing well. You can go down the list of and that's not even mentioning Llewellyn and Herkett and all that kind of stuff. This defense went from being a really good no-name defense to it's starting to feel like one of those elite Iowa defenses. Can you talk about that side of the football and maybe the maturation we've seen, especially over the last 3-4 weeks?
I had legitimate questions about the defense entering the season, because you just think about all the guys that Iowa lost, not only just in like game production, but leadership, like a Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, Y.A. Black, Quinn Schulte, Sebastian Castro. Jamari Harris. You can go down the list of all the guys that Iowa lost. And it was weird, an interesting dynamic entering the season, because it was like there was questions on offense, but you weren't used to having really that type of questions on defense with so many guys that just hadn't played a lot of, meaningful football at Iowa. And they've answered a lot of the questions, and credit to Phil Parker. On one hand, like I said, a little bit of skepticism of what that unit was going to exactly look like, but you just had trust in Phil Parker, and it wouldn't have been a surprise given what him and Seth Wallace have been able to do if that unit ended up playing really well. And that's exactly what they've done. And some of those guys that you needed to take steps into bigger roles have done so. Like you mentioned, a Zach Lutmer. This is his first year starting. He hadn't had a start before this season. Cohen Entringer had just one start, a spot start against Michigan State last season. And then you think about a guy like TJ Hall, who's really just elevated his play, has kind of had a rocky career at Iowa, up and down, but he's playing the best football of his career. Max Llewellyn has stepped into a bigger role. Aaron Graves is just being a real menace in the interior of the defensive line. So it's a collection of guys that have gotten better. And the thing about Zach Lutmer is I think it's crazy to think about. He's only a redshirt sophomore, and I sort of like when he was running that pick back for a touchdown against Minnesota, there's shades of Cooper DeJean. And I don't want to say he's going to be the next Cooper DeJean or anything like that, but there's definitely some parallels there. Both small town Iowa guys play quarterback in high school, have that kind of athleticism, make plays around the ball. There's definitely some Cooper DeJean and Zach Lutmer, and as good as he has been this season, he's been really good. The future is bright for him.
Tyler Tachman joining us right now and Off There with Matt Randazzo. Tyler, you mentioned the pick six. It was the 18th straight season that Iowa has a pick six, and they were so close. Aaron Graves got down to the goal line against Madison, and Xavier the next week gets to the 1 yard line, so they finally get in. And it might have been Chad Leistico that brought the question up on social media. Somebody did. Who's Iowa's best defensive player right now?
Well, I think the good thing is that I'm not sure there's one. That's why Iowa's defense has been so good, is because I think you might be able to ask 10 to 15 people and you'll get maybe five to six different answers. There's a case for it to be Zach Lutmer, a case for it to be Cohen Entringer, Aaron Graves. I think Max Llewellyn's in the conversation, TJ Hall is. So that's what makes Iowa's defense so good, is that there's not necessarily one bona fide star. It's a collection of guys that are playing their best football. And then that also, another guy like Xavier Wampa, who came in as a super highly touted guy, has been on it's not like his career has been bad, but he hasn't had that emphatic breakout that I think you really wanted him to have. And it feels like he is starting to put that together, especially with the way he played against Penn State. And I feel like he carried that over against Minnesota. So you just have a bunch of guys who this is the ideal scenario for Iowa's defense, where you have a bunch of guys who weren't really established, but were hungry to prove themselves. And you kind of see the benefit of that coming to light.
Tyler, I want to flip to the offense, because if you're going to have a special season, there's usually great storylines throughout. And I think one of them that are developing in Iowa City is, after week one, it was more groans for Gronowski than anything else. And the crankiness of some fans, and through the Iowa State game, you were down there on the field. He was doing the CBS interview, and there's a huge chunk of the student section waiting around like he's a rock star, chanting his name. That storyline is fascinating to me, from maybe the not so great start to what's starting to become a really fun story. He's the leader of this football team. And I think the fans are starting to see it as well. Here we are after 8 games. Your thoughts on Mark Gronowski, the quarterback and maybe the leader for the Iowa football team?
I think we're seeing what why people talk so highly about him from South Dakota State. He's just a winner. You can talk about the passing numbers all you want. They're not great, but the way that he was able to win that Penn State game with his legs, a dude that just makes plays when the team needs him to. And you mentioned the start against Albany, it was a disappointing first game, but another way I feel like he's endeared himself to Iowa fans is the way that he came back off of that injury against Indiana, because we legitimately, like, we didn't know exactly what his future was going to look like at Iowa after that game. It seemed cloudy, and but it seems like the way that he worked during that bye week to get back, he's not at 100%. He's still out there playing. He's putting his body on the line. So that's another part that I just feel like, and his personality too. Like he's just a great personality, super humble guy. I've really enjoyed being able to, meet with him basically on a weekly basis during the media availabilities. And it's not difficult to see why he's someone that people are willing to rally around, just the passion he plays with. So just a really easy guy to root for, the way his personality is, the way he plays. And we're kind of seeing why he has the record as a starting quarterback that he does, and the success that he had at South Dakota State. That's now translating over to Iowa.
Tyler, we have to talk about the head coach because here we are with a little break in the season, second bye week. And I don't know if it's a good bye week or not. Like the way they're playing right now, I wouldn't mind seeing Iowa back on the field next weekend. But the bye weeks are the bye week, and they're going to get healthy and all those kind of things, use them to the best of their ability. But after the Iowa State game, maybe after the Indiana game, I got so many people that would text me that love Kirk and respect him that would say, it's just time. Like, it's just time. Like, we need to do better. It's time. And then since that and the crankiness of the Indiana disappointment, they've won 3 games. They've beaten, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Penn State. The 2 trophy games, they've outscored their rival 78-3 in those 2 games. And it just doesn't change really. I think he gets a ton of credit. Coaching matters. Culture matters. And I think it's glowing right now in Iowa City when it comes to Kirk Ferentz. Your thoughts?
And will you just look around what's happening around college football? Like, I mean, it's the leashes these coaches have is ridiculously short. Yeah. And you look at, I mean, most recently Brian Kelly, LSU moving on from him, but you have James Franklin, who was coming off of a season in which Penn State went to the college football playoff semifinal, was like on the doorstep of making the national championship game, and he's gone not even halfway through Penn State's season. It's just, I think it makes you appreciate more of the stability, because you just don't see this around college football very often. And I remember I talked to Ty Hudkins, who he's a defensive back who transferred from Purdue to Iowa this offseason. And that was like one of the reasons that he wanted to come to Iowa, was just because of that stability. And you just don't see it much. I think it's just so impressive that like Iowa's not had a season in where they've just totally bottomed out, and it's like to the point where they would, the athletic department would want to move on from Kirk Ferentz. Because you see with some of these programs, they just have one down year, and then that's kind of what pulls the plug. But like that speaks to Iowa's consistency. Like they just consistently win 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 games, and there just hasn't been that like one season and that has totally went off the rails to where things have gone south from a coaching perspective, and there feels like there needs a move to be made. And to be honest, I thought this season could be that, just because all the youth that Iowa had, all the production they lost, the unknown. I mean, you didn't know exactly what Mark Gronowski was going to bring. I thought this was like a super high ceiling, low floor Iowa team. I thought there was a chance this could be one of their worst seasons in like recent history. And well, it might be one of their better ones, so we don't know. But that's a credit to Kirk Ferentz of just like being able to keep his guys motivated and being able. I mean, part of sports is just being able to get through the bad times and not let it define you. And Kirk Ferentz has done a really good job at that of not letting things spiral.
Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register joining us right now. Tyler, we got to talk about these rankings because I have kids in my house that are cranky that Iowa's not ranked in the top 25. I know social media doesn't like it either. My thoughts are, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. The real rankings come out like November 4th when they start talking about the postseason, the playoffs. Before we start talking about maybe Iowa's chances for that, they're not ranked. Are you surprised? Do you care? Your thoughts on the AP rankings?
Yeah, no, I'm not that surprised. I think it's probably better for Iowa not to be ranked, just in terms of like, this is a program that plays that does well in that underdog role and playing with the chip on their shoulder. So I think the fact that they're continuing to kind of fly under the radar nationally, probably more than they deserve to be, is not a bad thing. But a part of it too is I just think the national perception of Iowa is what it is. Like this isn't a program that you bring up. I think the way the offense played, toward the latter stages of the Brian Ferentz era really kind of tarnished how people see Iowa. So even like a 6-2 Iowa team, it's like there still might be some jokes being made about their offense, but it's like if you've watched Iowa the last 2 seasons, you know that the offense is not even close to what it was in 2023 or 2022. So part of that is just like Iowa, it's not like a glamorous program. Like that's just what it is. But it's one that you kind of have to just watch and see the toughness. And Kirk Ferentz isn't like building this program to like impress people nationally. Like that's just not how Iowa is built. So I think that's part of it. Iowa's just not a program that, maybe like an SEC program that's just going to have that like that kind of more shine to it. But that's fine with what they want. So
Tyler, you look at the playoffs, and now they're in projections. I think On Three put theirs out, and they're in the first 4 out of the postseason. If we're doing that like we do with the bracketology for the March Madness and stuff. You look at it, and now we have a bye week. We have 2 weeks where Iowa fans can start talking about what can be and what could be. But then you look, and there's Oregon next. Our good friend Tom Kakert, he thinks that USC might be the hardest game left on the schedule, not just Oregon. How much can Iowa fans start to think about the playoffs? Is it okay? Is it okay to do those kind of things, or should they pump the brakes a little bit when it comes to the big picture of college football?
I think, think about it. It's fun to think about. I don't know how super realistic it is. Like there's an outside chance of it happening. It's on the table. I think that's the fun part about it, because at this point last season, there wasn't this hope at this point last season. And now the further you can get along into the season and still play for stuff. I mean, if you're an Iowa fan, I think you lean into it as much as possible. I think their next 2 games are their most difficult games on the schedule, Oregon and USC. And like, I agree with, I would put them on a similar tier. I don't know if there's necessarily one that's more difficult than the other, but you certainly having the Kinnick Stadium crowd behind you against Oregon will help. But I think if Iowa can get past those 2 games, then the chances are taking a turn for the better, because you have Michigan State at home, Nebraska on the road. That's going to be a rivalry game where if Nebraska could play spoiler for Iowa, they would be super motivated for that. But if you can get past these next 2 games out of the bye week, then you can really see the gears start turning. Because then I think I would be probably confident if I can get past these 2 games, both as wins, then I think 10-2 is a real possibility, and I probably a good chance of it happening.
Tyler, before I let you go, you mentioned the offense isn't anything what it used to be. I think that's the beauty part of the bye week for the media, is it gives us a chance to, and you guys, you work way harder than I do. I just flap my gums every day. But you guys can look at like where things are at, and we get coordinators this week. Tim Lester has done an amazing job. I was averaging over 30 plus points a game. It's not the greatest offense in the world or anything like that, but from where it was to where it's at now, talk about Tim Lester. And I don't think Iowa fans' perception's still pretty, it's offense, they don't care about it at Iowa and all that kind of stuff. Tim Lester's done an amazing job.
When you think about the Minnesota game 2 seasons ago at Kinnick Stadium, people will long remember that for the Cooper DeJean, controversy, invalid fair catch signal, all that. But like that was the last straw in the Brian Ferentz era in terms of his fate at Iowa, because it was during that bye week that Iowa decided that, hey, he's going to finish out the season here, but he's not going to stay beyond the season. And if you think about where Iowa's come from that point to where they were, fast forward to 2025, like it's a much different picture, and it's a competent offense. It's not a juggernaut, but it's in a much better place than it was 2 seasons ago. With Tim Lester, he just has a great personality, a lot of energy. That's what you needed. You needed someone to come in. Like if you had an offensive coordinator come into this situation and just kind of be like low energy, not, you needed someone to like kind of just give it a jolt, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to sell it and to be able to make people excited about wanting to come play offense for Iowa. And I think Tim Lester has done a really good job at that. And it's remarkable that Iowa has made these strides offensively with an almost non-existent passing game. Like that remains something that hasn't been unlocked. So, on one hand, that's going to be a cloudy area until Iowa can prove differently. And that's still a concern. But the fact that Iowa's been able to make the progress offensively that they have without really the passing game getting its feet under it, it's been a testament to Tim Lester's kind of creativity in the run game and the offensive line. You have to give George Barnett credit for that as well. But even after Caleb Johnson has left, you felt like maybe was that an aberration that it was Caleb Johnson just basically putting the offense on his back? Like Iowa in the post-Caleb Johnson world has been able to sustain that offensive momentum thanks to the offensive line, thanks to Mark Gronowski and Kamari Moulton kind of filling in that role.
Absolutely. Tyler, it's the bye week. Do you get to do anything fun? I know you're still working and all that kind of stuff, but do you get a little breather?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. We're getting basketball season starting a week from tomorrow. Officially, the Ben McCollum era getting underway. But yeah, it'll be a little bit lighter week. We
talked, and I got to ask you because Halloween's coming up. You get to enjoy it. Tell us the costume. I love it. It's in my top 3 when it comes to Christmas movies. What's the costume this year?
Yeah, so I'm dressing up as Buddy the Elf. I have the ears for it already, so I didn't need anything.
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
Yeah. No, I'm actually kind of scared. So I tried it on, and it almost looks like too realistic. Like I legit look like I just came from the North Pole, and I'm like, man, I should have chose something that like doesn't look as realistic. So, but it's too late now. I'm in knee deep on it, so we'll roll with it.
Tyler, I appreciate you. Tell people to get your content. The Des Moines Register does a fantastic job. You and Chad and everybody else. And you guys are doing like your show. You guys do like a show every other day, it seems like. So tell people how they get your guys' content as well.
Yeah, you can go to hawkcentral.com. That's where all of our Iowa stuff will be. On X, I'm Tyler_T15, so I'm on there as well.
I love it. Tyler, enjoy the bye week as much as you can. We'll catch up again real soon. I appreciate you.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. That is Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register, Hawkeye Central, whichever word he just said. Whatever it is, go check it out because it's bookmarked. So you guys can't get mad at me. It's bookmarked on my thing. So go check all that out. The Hawkeyes, Iowa fans feeling good, and they get a couple weeks to enjoy it before a very good Oregon team comes to town on November 8th. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coming up next, we'll start talking high school playoff football. United Township's head coach, Nick Welch, the Panthers, back in the postseason for the first time since 2001. We'll talk to him next right here on OTA. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. What a weekend it was on Saturday. You had all the college football and stuff like that, but you had high school teams watching and waiting to find out where they were going to go and who were they going to play when it comes to the Illinois side of the river for high school football. And it was a special night for United Township, because for the first time since 2001, they heard their name, they watched their name, they watched the bracket. The Panthers are in the playoffs, and we're joined now by their head coach, Nick Welch. Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Congratulations. I know you had to be tired of listening to the when are they going to make the playoffs kind of thing. And I know this is a special group for you. What was Saturday night like? I know you knew about it earlier, but to be with your guys probably and know who the opponent was and see yourself in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great night. Luckily for us, our babysitter was in town. She's off to college now at Western Illinois, told us she'd be in town, and, not a lot of time for my wife and I to enjoy each other. So went and had dinner before all that, dropped her off because bedtime has been quite the debacle lately with Harper, which is fine. It's just part of the process. As a parent, all of you have been through it. When you're getting close to 2, they get a little FOMO.
Yeah.
So we had that. Then went over to the Colgan's house. Jill Colgan and her husband were gracious enough to host our kids for a little playoff preview. They had a big projector screen out, and then their garage is the ultimate hangout setup, and for adults or kids friendly, and had a TV. So we had 2 screens rolling with the audio on, and I surprised them with their playoff shirts beforehand. And then all the coaches were over at Coach Williams' house. So I hung out with the kids for a little bit, but then knowing that we had to kind of get the ball rolling on terms of, when are we going to play? What time are we going to play? And then getting films exchanged and all that, and then kind of getting a plan put in place. So I actually let the kids enjoy that on their own, and then met up with the coaches. And I got there when 5A was being announced. And I'm not going to lie, we were hoping Susie was going to be spot on. So we kind of were prepping mentally for trying to see get some intel on Glenbard East, but then ended up getting the St. Charles North draw. And obviously we're going to have our hands full with a very good football team, but we're excited for the opportunity and excited to see how this week goes. We're
going to talk about the matchup in a second, but every journey is different. And you know it from every single year, not just the playoff teams, but the non-playoff teams. This team's journey has had its fair share of, I won't say bumps along the way, but things maybe they can't control. And they've persevered, and they're in the postseason. And what does it mean, not just to make the postseason, but with this group? I got to hang out with 6 of your seniors a couple weeks ago when we did our show there. And this is no bash at any other high school. Those players helped me clean up. They helped me pack my car up. They were as personable as can be. I know this is a special group for you, and not just on the field. What's it mean to do this, but to do it with this group, if that makes any sense?
Well, this group's special, no doubt. We knew they were special when we just look at their summer attendance as freshmen, right? Like, you kind of know a lot about a group based on who they are before they really entrenched in the program. And there was just a lot of families and kids that were very committed early on. I believe that we've been building for this since I got hired 7 years ago. And I think back to every class has made their mark in a different way, not always in the outcome, part of it, but I think the COVID team really changed some things in terms of like our ability to have success and win games in the conference. And then, another group that really stands out to me is Matthew Kelly's group, a group that I think going in, we all kind of expected to be the team to break the streak. That didn't work out the way we had hoped. But a lot of these seniors were contributing sophomores on that group. So we were kind of seniors and sophomore heavy. And, it's hard to play 7 or 8 sophomores at the varsity level in the Western Big Six and have a ton of success. But we thought maybe that balance could do it, but it didn't work out. And then, last year coming up a little bit short, a couple really close games left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, especially these seniors. And they did a really good job of, buying into what needed to be done in the offseason and the work that needed to be put in. And there's been a lot of adversity, losing significant players, players that are, in my opinion, all conference caliber players, but that's the game of football. And we've seen teams, I know there's been times that Sterling's battled this and they've had, almost double digits guys go down, but they find a way to get themselves an opportunity to compete every week and give themselves a chance. And honestly, besides the game against the school down the street, I feel like we were competitive in every game, and there were some really close ones there, whether that was the Quincy game, the Geneseo game, obviously having a lead against Sterling and squandering that one, but having key guys go down in that game as well. And they've just continued to show up and work, and that's all you can do because that's a controllable, and been really proud of how those guys, we talk about leaving a legacy, and I feel like they've done that, and then, elevating the program, and they've done that as well. So now we got this, gorilla off our back, right? We can just focus on the task at hand and going forward, every class, the next class doesn't have to hear, hey, when are you going to make the playoffs? That question is out. It's more of how can we continue to elevate. So we're very proud of them, and it's all about our seniors. They lead us, no doubt.
I don't like it because I got to find a new joke for the banquet because the joke's gone. So I'll probably find a few along the way. I'm not that too worried about it. Coach, I got to ask you because full disclosure, everybody knows I'm an Alleman guy, and unfortunately you didn't have a game on Friday. And I think one of the things I thought of when Alleman first forfeited their game against Moline was I immediately looked ahead to UT in my mind because I know it could have been the game and you could have clinched sooner, but it could have been that game where you got win number 5. And I'm like, man, you want to do that on the field. So I know you didn't get a chance to do it on the field, but you did have a JV game and you're out on the field with the guys. Were you able to celebrate it in that way? I didn't want to see an email come and be like, oh, I'm going to tell my guys on a Tuesday afternoon, hey, we made the playoffs. Yay. Was it, and I'm full respect to Alleman and what they're going through and all that, but what was Friday night like for you guys? And was it, what you might have hoped for when it came to being with your guys and celebrating in a football atmosphere, if that makes sense?
It was definitely unique. We have complete respect for Alleman's decision. Obviously every situation's different. Other people might have had different feelings when they got the news, but we were appreciative of them communicating with us Tuesday morning, and then by about noon on Tuesday they had made the announcement so we could kind of put that information out. So our kids found out via Google Classroom and then a conversation at practice. But it really gave us an opportunity to focus on ourselves for those couple days and then kind of figure out, how we were going to adapt given the adversity that we continue to see as we head into what we thought was a pretty good chance of Week 10. And obviously that was validated with the playoff show on Saturday. But Friday was fun just because like our lower levels, it's been great to watch them improve over the year, course of the year. Our freshman isn't the biggest class, but to watch their progress, right? Like you watch those kids come in June and then where they are now. It's a credit to our coaching staff. I think they've done a great job of, developing them, focusing on the fundamentals, installing the scheme and getting them comfortable with what we do, but also those kids buying in. And that starts with our seniors too. They watch the way they practice. They watch the varsity gets after it. And I think they understand what the standard is. It was great to be back at Augustana, obviously my old stomping grounds. Again, not exactly the way we envisioned it or drew it up, but still, our lower levels were able to come away with a solid victory. Took the win. They got to enjoy their last game of their freshman or sophomore years. Obviously, some of them will be with us for the playoffs as part of that playoff experience, giving them a taste of it. But I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty chilly. So I told them as soon as that clock hit 0, we're getting on this bus and we're headed out of here, and we'll let these fresh soft clean up the field and get on their bus and we'll see them later. But yeah, it wasn't quite exactly how we drew it up, but we're still grateful for the opportunity, and we understand that Allman has to do what's best for them because, they're trying to rebuild their program and they're going through some challenges. And I always say this, you got to look out for yourself, because if you don't, no one will look out for you.
Sure. No, well said, Coach. Let's talk about football and a St. Charles North team that's obviously highly seeded, very well respected, a good football team. What do you know about them, and how do you guys prepare for a really solid game or a difficult game coming up on Friday?
Yeah, they're a very good team. They play in a tough league. Obviously growing up in that area, kind of gotten to know St. Charles and, the Batavias, the Genevas really well. When I first got into high school, Batavia and Geneva were still in our conference, or there was 3 divisions. So we played Geneva every year. Geneva actually knocked us out in the quarterfinals my sophomore year of high school. I was one of the guys that got brought up for the playoffs that year, and we lost a game in the last minute. So we know how good the football is in the Duquesne Conference. St. Charles North, will start with their offense, is very explosive. They throw the ball quite a bit. On my comparison to their offense would be Quincy from the previous 2 years under Braden Little, where they throw the ball quite a bit. Their running backs are good. I don't think they're Jarius Rice, that kind of skill set, but they're more scat back type players. They've got a Division I receiver going to Northwestern, and you can see why on film. He's tall, he's fast, he does a great job of high pointing the ball and making catches in traffic. I think he's going to be making an impact on the Big Ten here in the next couple of years. And then they've got some other receivers that really complement him really well. And their offensive line's big, and they do a good job of protecting the quarterback. Defensively, they're not a defense that's predicated on size. I mean, they're all solidly built players, but they're predicated on speed. So they move around a lot. They're jumping between an even front and an odd front. They bring a lot of different pressures. And honestly, the structure of their defense is very similar to what Quincy had done the last 2 years under when Braden was there and those other, very talented group. I would say their defense is a hybrid between what we've seen from Geneseo and Sterling, whether that's the 3-4 with the robber, or if that's getting down into a 4 down and trying to create chaos. So, in that regard, they're strong. They get after you quite a bit. And then special teams wise, their kicker's really good. He wears 2 different jerseys. I don't know what that's all about, but I mean, he kicks the ball out through the back of the end zone, not to the end zone. Their punter's really good. Saw him put some punts in, rolling all the way down to the 1 yard line against Batavia, which put them in a difficult situation at times. And strong punting game. They haven't punted a whole lot, but when teams do make them punt, they're really good. And they're completely 2 platoons, so none of their guys go both ways. So when you're watching their special teams, you can see kickoff and punt is a lot of defensive starters, and kickoff return and punt returns a lot of offensive starters. So, yeah, it's a good team. We know we've got our hands full, but, everybody's record at this point is 0-0, and they're not really familiar with us, and we're not really familiar with them. So, on Friday night, we got to show up and we got to play a complete team game to give ourselves an opportunity to advance, but we know how difficult that's going to be.
Coach, before I let you go, what's the message to the team today? Is it the same as the first 9 weeks? Is there a difference because it is the postseason? You know who the opponent is. You got to enjoy Saturday night. What's the message now this afternoon or when you guys get back on the practice field?
Well, I think there's 2 things. One, we don't change the way we approach things, right? Every game's important. So don't focus on winning, focus on what it takes to win. That's what the message is going to be. That's consistent. But also, on the other hand, is let's have some gratitude and be grateful for the opportunity we're in. This is something that the previous 24 years of people who wore orange and black didn't have an opportunity to do that, maybe really wanted it, or, in the COVID instance, literally didn't have an opportunity to do so because there wasn't a postseason. So let's make sure that we don't take anything for granted this week. It's win or go home. So this is such a special group. Let's enjoy the time that we get together. We've got 4 more guaranteed practice opportunities and 1 more guaranteed game. And if we want to earn the right to another one, it's going to be really important that we're present and we live in the moment and don't worry about what we're doing later, worried about what we're doing now and make the most of every rep, because come Friday night, it's going to really have an impact on the outcome of the game.
United Township's Nick Welch. I appreciate you doing this, my friend. Get a win, go shock the world. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Matt. We appreciate it.
All right. That is Nick Welch joining us right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Monday. A lot of excited football teams around the state, especially our area, especially on the Illinois side. We're going to talk to as many of them as we can this week as we get ready for round 1 of the postseason on the Illinois side of the river. Coming up next, we're going to hop the river to Iowa, where there's not as many teams, but there's so many good stories as well. We're going to talk to Central DeWitt's Clay Waterbury about the Sabres first round game coming up with Dubuque Wahlert. That's coming up next right here on Off the Air. We'll be right back. Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need mobile party experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile party experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your mobile party experience today.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. It's a fun Monday because the high school playoffs are set on both sides of the river. Illinois side is packed, ready to rock. The Iowa side is the same. And there's one team in our area that got off to such a good start. They had everyone's attention and they continued to play really good football. Central DeWitt back in the postseason after an impressive 7-2 regular season. And they needed to win to get in on Friday. And they did just that. Joining me now, the Sabres head football coach, Clay Waterbury. And Coach, you're in the postseason. We kind of joked before we started. It might not have been pretty on Friday, but that don't matter. You're in the postseason.
No, it was, those games where I'm excited for this Friday night because I feel like it's kind of, we get to play the underdog again, and that's been our strength all season. And we got to a point where we knew after beating Mount Vernon that all we had to do was win out and we'd be in the playoffs. And that can be stressful. You don't bring it up, obviously, with the players, but everybody knows it. And so it's good to have that behind us. And now we can go up and play free and play fast on Friday and not have to worry about anything.
It's a fascinating matchup with Dubuque Wahlert, a rematch. We're going to get to that in a second. But, Coach, you look big picture-wise, and I know you're focused on the playoffs, but a 7-2 regular season. We talked when you guys were I think 4-0. The things you guys did this year and accomplished, and I know there's more to be done. But talk about this regular season, 7-2, and we joked you're 9 points away from being 9-0. It's just a special fall up in DeWitt.
Yeah, it has. It's been a lot of fun. You can just feel the difference in the school. You know, as a teacher, I've been through good seasons and bad seasons in the halls and in the classroom, and so that's been enjoyable. And there's so many things that go into it, like we've talked about in the past, but you know, all the credit really goes to our players. We've had a great it's great when the juniors and seniors really mesh together, and that's can be really tough. I've found coaching high school football, like sometimes the juniors want to point fingers at the seniors or vice versa, and this year I really haven't felt that. We feel like one team, and that's a big part of it. And obviously all the work those guys did in the offseason. But then week by week, you know, like we had that 3-week stretch, 4 weeks really, Mount Pleasant, and then Assumption, Wahlert, and Mount Vernon. And we knew we had to go 2-2 somehow in that stretch, and ended up being the first one and the last one. But those weeks of practice, like it's almost scary sometimes at our practice field how like quiet it is, because that's kind of our group's nature, is they're just ultra focused on what they need to do. And sometimes that can be eerie because you want a little bit more, I wouldn't say energy, but noise. And they kind of just lock in, and that's been a big positive for us. So I'm excited for this week of practice, because I think it's really going to be a great one.
Coach, it's a rematch with Wahlert, a team that got you 17-12 earlier this season. Can you go back and look at that game and make adjustments, focus? How much is it looking back, and how much is it simply looking ahead? Because it's a different game, different matchup, all those kind of things, and different teams too. Each team gets better throughout the season probably as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that have changed. We changed a couple things on offense after that week, but nothing major. I would say a vast majority of our game planning and preparation for this is watching that last game we played against them and learning from. I mean, Wahlert's defense, not necessarily structurally reminds me of Iowa, but their philosophy reminds me a lot of Iowa, where they're disciplined. They keep everything in front. They're not going to give up the big play. They're going to force you to take the short stuff, and they know their job. They read it, they trust their eyes, and they fly to the football. And so, we have a really idea of what they're going to do, because they know who they are, and they just try to excel at that. And so we can get a lot out of that film. We didn't feel like we played our best the first time we played them. I don't think they probably feel like they played their best the first time they played us. So it'll be an exciting game. And, both teams had 2 turnovers the first time around. I'm sure both teams are saying this week, if we can just have no turnovers, then we feel like we can, so it'll be an exciting game. But yeah, there's a lot to be learned from that film, and we definitely spent plenty of time watching it.
A few friends of mine in DeWitt texted me, and they said it's a revenge time. And I think you look at the schedule and it was a loss, and you think automatically that. Can you guys get too caught up in that, knowing that simply it's not just a revenge game, it's a playoff game? Winner gets to keep playing football. There's enough on the line besides revenge. How much does revenge have a role in what maybe happens on Friday night?
Yeah, honestly, that word has not even crossed my mind, or any of the staff when we met this weekend. I don't think, we've talked about how we wish we maybe had that one back, or we felt like we left some points on the field, but there's no feeling of like we need to get back at them or anything like that. And I think part of that is because it's Dubuque Wahlert. That's a program that has earned a lot of respect over the past several seasons, and they won state last year. We played them last year, and they got to us pretty good. So I don't think that we've used the word revenge. It really has been, like I say this all the time, but it's probably a revenge game for ourselves. Like, we want to right our wrongs. It really has nothing to do with Dubuque Wahlert from that regard.
No, that's a good point. Clay Waterbury from Central DeWitt joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. What's that school like? right now? I know it's been a fun season. Everyone's been excited. Sabre football's back, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they're going to travel in droves. It's not that far of a drive, especially when you're starting in DeWitt. It's a long drive for me, but for you guys, it's not that. I'm assuming you're expecting a huge crowd from your guys' side of things on Friday night as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see that, but if you've been to Loris' Stadium, it doesn't really matter how many people show up because they're about a mile away up on the hill in the corner of the end zone. So I'm sure we'll have a decent crowd, but it's very, very rarely do you hear much down on the sideline at that place. And it's been awesome at school. I maybe brought this up to you earlier. I don't remember, but I've gotten a lot more texts on Friday nights than I ever did last year. I know that. So that's good. That means people are paying attention, but there's been a lot of positives, and it's not just our varsity program either. We really feel like our whole high school program and our middle school program is really coming together and being unified. And heck, I've got 8th grade football players asking for the high school playbook so they can prepare. And we're like, no, just go out for wrestling, basketball, and lift. And that's all we're asking of you. You don't need to worry about any of that right now. So it's been exciting, but our fresh soft team went undefeated this year. And so it just feels like there's a lot of things going in the right direction for us.
Coach, I was kind of just going to ask that because it doesn't feel like, oh, what a special one season for Central DeWitt, and then maybe struggles come back. I mean, it feels like this is something that you can sustain for a while as well. Talk about building it and maybe building it correctly, because everyone in life is all about quick fixes, and that's nice, but they're not usually attainable. Talk about building this and maybe building it the correct way.
Yeah, there's so many things I could bring up with that question. I mean, the biggest thing I would say is we have a large staff of football coaches and a great group of parents and et cetera, that all administrators that really care, have our back, and we have put a lot of time in, so that's made my job a lot easier. I try to always be there as kind of a leader, but there's so many people that are working just as hard as I have been, and that's obviously important. Yeah, I mean, it's been it's not a quick fix, like you said. It goes back to some of the kids joked about how, and we're not there yet, because if you saw the game on Friday, I feel like there's a lot of cultural things I still have to get better at with our team. But this does go back to our seniors last year, and we talked about this. The scoreboard didn't ever reflect it, but it's funny. Some of our players this year have been like, well, yeah, our culture is so much different, or maybe somebody else would say that, and we're not doing anything different. I can tell you that. None of that has changed. I think the foundation was set last year. It just feels a little different because we're winning games, but the process has not changed whatsoever between last year and this year. We haven't done any special, magic tricks this year. It's just been the accumulation of it starting to add up. And, moving forward, if you were to look at our roster, our stats, or whatever, we have a very strong junior class. That is our strength. Last year we brought back, I don't remember I think we brought back 11 letter winners last season when we went 1-8. Well, this year we brought back 29. We had a lot of sophomores that played varsity last year. So that's been a big part of it. And, a couple of years from now, we're probably going to be back to about that 11 number, because we're probably going to have over 20 juniors now that are seniors next year that will contribute all over the place. And that's been one of the biggest things, is just the depth we've been able to accrue. And a lot of that is our juniors and some of our sophomores that have stepped up. But like this season, we've had pretty solid special teams. And that's kind of a testament to our depth on our team, because when you got guys on kickoff making plays, or getting out there on punt and making tackles, like that's been a big difference for us in the years past, where maybe we've had some errors there, and it's really just because of our numbers that we can put on the field.
Coach, a few more before I let you go. What's the message to the boys this afternoon when you get to practice? Is it different from the first 9 games? Is it the same? What's the message you want to give your boys when you start your week of practice tonight?
Yeah, that's a great question. I usually try to have like a Monday message that we bounce back to on Thursday, and maybe they hear those same words here and there on Tuesday and Wednesday. But I think really the biggest thing is we get the week we played Mount Vernon, and that was, kind of the statement win for our season so far, was just the kids believed in themselves, and they believed in our game plan, and the coaches put a lot of time in that week, and it felt like everybody was on the same page, and we all trusted each other, and there was no sense of nerve going into that game. I don't know. It was just a different feeling. We stepped on the field. We really felt like we could win that game, and I think that's what it's going to be this week too. It just comes back to believe in your teammates, believe in yourselves, and go make some noise on Friday night, because we get to kind of play that underdog role again, and that's just so fun.
Coach, before I let you go, I'm a little disappointed. Last interview we had, I had several people love it because there was a rooster crowing at times. No rooster today. This is way too professional for you. Come on.
I know. I even locked my classroom door so that students wouldn't come in and interrupt me, because I thought the chickens last time were enough. I probably should stop there, but hopefully we can win a couple games, and then maybe we can get another one outside at home.
Absolutely. That's the plan. I hope to talk to you again in the future as well. Coach, appreciate you. Best of luck this week. Again, it's Central DeWitt and Wahlert playing coming up on Friday night. Go get a win. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Yep, I appreciate it.
That is Coach Waterbury up at Central DeWitt. A great time of year, and we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. On the Iowa side, I go viewing area, because that's just the way my mind is programmed, but from my old viewing area, there's only 7 teams from that viewing area still playing high school football in Iowa. Central DeWitt is one of them, and I think they're one of them that can make some noise, so we're excited about that as well. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Monday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. Monday, of course, means there's a lot to talk about. It was a busy weekend in all sports, especially football. It's a fantastic time of year. The postseason, of course, as we've talked about on today's show, front and center in both Iowa and Illinois. College football, there's tons to talk about. Everything else in between, pro football. So it's time for Marxy Monday. John Marx joins me as he does every Monday. First and foremost, I appreciate you. How was your weekend? I know you're busy traveling all over the Midwest for one final time, but it's well worth it, I know.
Tennessee Tech was a great experience, great time. It's really neat to see the building of their new stadium. Also neat to be in Nashville when Vanderbilt and Missouri were playing and game day. And on the flight down and back, and just a really cool weekend. Thank you for asking. It's all good, and life is a bonus. And I got up and had to take a nap. Had to take a nap Sunday afternoon because my flight left Nashville way too early this morning. So, but no, great experience. I appreciate you asking. And just so you know, college football is alive and well in the South.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you mentioned Vanderbilt. Wow. Like, for them to be doing what they're doing, and we're going to talk college football playoffs in a little bit, but they beat Missouri, a big win for them. The SEC is obviously a very good conference. The Big Ten, a very good conference as well. And I kind of want to talk about that. And we'll start with, we've talked a lot about them during the show, but it's a good time to be an Iowa fan right now. They've looked really good. I put out a tweet, Johnny, on Saturday night, and it was just, I got a little video of Coach running into the tunnel. And I remember the last time, not the last time, but I was there when they played Indiana. I had my son Charlie with me, and they were that close. They were probably a Mark Gronowski injury late in that game to maybe winning that thing, but that close to beating what might be the best team in the country. And I know there was a lot of frustration. And throughout the year, whether it was the Iowa State loss or it was the Indiana loss, you always hear it's time. And I had a lot of people that were trying to be polite, and they're like, I love Coach Ferentz, but it's time. Johnny, since that disappointing loss, all they've done is go 3-0, beat Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota. They won their 2 rivalry games by a combined score of 78-3. And got 2 big trophies, and they're playing really good football. Now, have they been tested with an amazing team? No, but that's coming up against Oregon. And I sent the tweet out, or the post, whatever you call it now, and I said, like, coaching matters, culture matters. This is what Kirk Ferentz does. They're continuing to get better, and I don't want to just say Kirk, but also his staff and Phil Parker and everybody that's so familiar to that program. It's going to be an interesting 4 weeks for Iowa football. Your thoughts on Iowa not ranked either? Everybody's cranky about that because they're not ranked yet. Your thoughts on what the Hawkeyes did this weekend?
First of all, don't worry about that's exactly what Coach Ferentz wants with the ranking. He wants, you know how he is. He's a lay in the weeds kind of guy. And just, no, he really couldn't. That's the profile of that man as a person. They all 3 phases on Saturday, they have as good a special teams player as there is in the country, and Weegan. And the other part of it is Phil Parker, and this is everybody knows this and he could go and do whatever, but he's not that guy. He's so humble and so egoless, but he's not afraid to get in somebody's rear end. He takes, please, there's no such thing as two-star talent in college football anymore. It doesn't happen. You're either a 3 or 4 or 5. If you're, and the PWO thing is gone. If you are, let's say you're a 3-star, Phil Parker makes you play defense, my opinion, as a 4 and a 5-star, maybe 5+, because of his system. It's basic enough. It's complex enough. He's not afraid to sit in cover 3 and do things the right way, or rotate and play man if they have to. It's just fundamentally so sound. And this is every year. And if you notice, Matt, people and it's time, after week 2, or it's time after week 3. And then after week 8, it's the same story when it comes to the guy in charge. Is they're 5-2, or 6-2 and 5-3, and they go on and win 7, 8, 9, 10 football games. That, Iowa fans, I remember the old 10-1s. If you'd like to start throwing that out, and it's nice to see. As you know, I am a fan of Coach Ferentz. Everybody on the staff. Coach Parker is a class act. My son has had a conversation with LeVar Woods before, and Coach Ferentz, and they come no finer. So it just does it well. You see it a lot. You're up there. You're up close and see it every day. Those of us that see it from a peripheral end, it's phenomenal what they're doing. And don't get upset. Don't get riled. Just enjoy it, because that day is going to come where Oregon is going to be standing in your face, and then it's do or die time. But they certainly didn't let Minnesota row the boat.
No, and I loved. Well, there's a lot I loved about that game, but I loved Caden Weegan getting to row the boat himself after the punt return for a touchdown. And at that place, to have that happen, it was just perfect karma. And I don't want to talk a ton of Iowa. We've talked to Iowa earlier in the show, but I'll say this.
It wasn't a fair catch.
We were wondering maybe earlier in the year, we're like, this defense is good, but it's like a nameless defense. There wasn't a quote-unquote star. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Aaron Graves is really, really good. Max Llewellyn is really, really good. Zach Lutmer and Xavier Wampa and Cohen Entringer are really, really good football players. So I think it's and like what always happens, the names change, but the results kind of stay the same. And that's taking nothing away from the guys that left, because most of them are making good money playing football still. But that nameless defense now has a lot of names, and that's intriguing to me as well.
Take that one step further and start with the guy you're going to have on in a few minutes from 2009. And then start adding the Claibornes and the boom, and guys on the back end. Again, that's what this defense reminds me of. So swarm to the football. Don't blow coverages. Always in the right spot. They tackle, they're fundamental, and they have as good a defensive coordinator as there is in football.
It seems like this morning or this weekend maybe, I was looking more at maybe the big picture of what's been going on with programs more. And I mentioned Iowa beat their two rivals 78-3. So it's not like they're just winning rivalry games. They're winning them, and the impressiveness of it's the eyeball test. They're passing, in my opinion, the eyeball test right now. I don't know if Illinois is doing that. And I'm a little, and I love what Coach Bielema has been doing. The last year was special. I know the expectations were high this year, probably too high. And now they lose again. And you look at their three losses, they've lost those three games by a combined 139-51. So they've lost them by 87 points, 88 points between. So their average points per loss is 30-point losses. How good is this Illinois team? Is it just a solid team? Because you look at the rest of their schedule, Johnny, they should finish the season. I mean, maybe a Northwestern game that's a little funky, but other than that, Wisconsin's garbage. Rutgers and Maryland are both in Champaign, and they're awful too. Like, they should finish the season with 8-9 victories easily. How good of a 9-3 team might this be?
What? And I'll reverse that and pose the question to you, pal. What would you say? And we are, even though I'm an Iowa Notre Dame guy, a huge. We have friends, and Illinois is special to us. What would you say? And you could pose this to Kedrick as well. If somebody said, "Hey, Illinois is going to win 9 football games this year," what would you say?
Yeah,
absolutely. We got the right guy running the program. Yes, they can't. They're struggling on the defensive side of the football, and they can't go back to playing touchdown for touchdown with people like they did earlier in the season. So you have to make a stop. There has to be some adjustments there. But can they win 9 football games? Absolutely. And I hope they win 9 football games, Maddie. I think it would be a bit of a downer if they finished 8-4.
No, 100%.
9-3, yes. Get that top tier bowl game. Get more revenue into the program with that side of it, because we know the collective is always taking care of itself when it comes to getting the right guys. And then you have, with all due respect to every recruiter in college football, and I think there are a few that equal with Seth Wallace and LeVar Woods, but take that step. You have the best front man, I believe, in the Big Ten. If Brett Bielema and pick anybody, go ahead and it's kind of tough with Coach Ferentz because I'm partial. But if Brett Bielema came to my door, I'm following his rear end to Champaign, Matt. He knows the game. He knows what to get the best. And if you can play at the next level, he'll find you a way to get you there. But defensively, they need some work. Need some work up front. Not so much on the back end. I thought they need to learn to win the game in the trenches and not worry about trying to outscore everybody. But I think they win 9 football games. I will certainly never throw Brett Bielema or a Brett Bielema coached football team under a bus.
Johnny, you look at it, and that's my response. You said, you go, Illinois is special to me. Well, there's probably people laughing at home when they hear that because Yeah, they're special. But no, and in all honesty, I root for those local guys. I like Brett Bielema.
Absolutely.
I think they're doing. And my answer to how good are they? Yes, you can take that 139-51 against 3 good football teams, 2 great football, probably the 2 best football teams in the entire country. So I get all of that, and I understand people are probably yelling and saying they're playing the best. I get that. You still want to be a little bit closer. But I'll say this, just what you just said. 8-9 victories this year, maybe 9. Like, you have nothing. If you are complaining as an Illinois fan, you're just as bad as the Iowa fan complaining because Kirk only wins 8, 9, 10 games a year. Like, again, we're not that far removed from 1-2 victories on the season, and losing to Iowa 63-0 or whatever it was. The growth of this program, and you know what? Maybe going to a bowl game that's a little more where you need to be gets you that 10th victory. And then you have back-to-back 10 win seasons, and you're doing great. So yeah, I think there's some frustration. I think the overall thought process on how good this team could be, it's not a playoff team. It's just not, and it wasn't. And it's not just because they've lost 3 games now. It wasn't when they lost 63-10. Like, that was the exposure of and you know what?
Exactly.
If Iowa would have lost to Indiana the same way, I wouldn't be talking about them in the same breath as going to the college football playoffs. So I think there's nothing to be ashamed about by any stretch. Yeah, you want to win those games, but again, it wasn't. The expectations were just too high. They weren't one of the best 12 teams in the country. They probably weren't going to be, but heck, take 9 victories in a regular season and a chance for 10 and run. And hopefully they can do that. I do want to point out to you, the last 2 games, Cole Rusk combined has 9 catches for, I just had it here. Anyways, he had 9 catches, 9 catches for, I'm doing math in my head, so forgive me, 124 yards.
We're in trouble.
See how right? So
beautiful.
I'm loving the fact that, and every time you look down, again, Matthew Bailey's leading the league, one of the top 2 tacklers on the team. Again, that's also a problem because when your safeties are making that many tackles, that's probably a bad thing. But with that being said, or not always a great thing, maybe is the best way to put it, but love watching those 2 do what they do. And I'm really excited. These last 4 games, I'm excited to see where Cole Rusk goes, because I think the rust has been chipped away, and everything he'd gone through and transferring and injuring and sitting out the year and getting back, and they have a talented tight end room. So it wasn't like, hey, here's the keys to the car, it's yours. And now he's making an impact on Saturdays. And I think that's really, really cool as well.
We all knew, Maddie, that with all due respect, I didn't think he belonged at Eastern Michigan. I thought he belonged at a bigger school. Still, Eastern Michigan, phenomenal program. Again, I watched my son played against him. Big fan of. He went to Murray State and put up pinball numbers and video game numbers. So in a tough program that didn't win much. So whatever good after the knee injury. His last name is Rusk, so you know it's near and dear to my heart and yours as well. So that's great to see. Matthew Bailey is a Sunday guy. I don't know what kind of Sunday guy. But as a whole, now, and I do want people to take one thing with them. There are no longer 33,000 fans, 27,000 fans in Memorial Stadium. When there's a home game, Memorial Stadium is full, and it's okay. That wasn't the case before Brett Bielema. And to the other point, you know, Iowa was 3-8 and they still had 70,000, but Illinois is on the move, and please take a deep breath, enjoy whatever ride you're on now. It's only going to get better as long as Brett Bielema, and that worries me because of all the jobs that are open.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot to get him away. I think the buyout for him is enormous.
It's hefty.
I just know that, like, I mean, I didn't think there would be a school that paid James Franklin $50 million to go away. And now it sounds like Brian Kelly's going to go away at LSU. And,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, and absolutely. And that never fit to begin with. So it's just, it's what it is now. The days, as we've said before, of Kirk Ferentz getting to go 2 and whatever in his first 2 years or whatever it was. I think he won 2 of his first 18 games or something like that. Those days are done. And it's unfortunate because look what he's built at Iowa, but you have to have some patience, and there's no patience when people are playing for millions and millions of dollars and all those kind of things as well. Little NFL before I get some high school from you, because I'm intrigued with that too. And I know you're on another call of a game on MC22 this Friday night. Bears go to Baltimore. It was a weird thing. Everyone thought Lamar was coming back all week. You find out Saturday that he's not coming back, and the line doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Because I think Lamar Jackson's worth like 21 points. I mean, he's just a fantastic football player. And it just went from 6.5 to like 2.5. And it's like, that's weird. Like Vegas knows something. I think John Harbaugh is a very good head coach. I think he had those guys ready, but it's not a very good Baltimore team. And they beat the Bears by 2 touchdowns. Your thoughts this Monday morning on where the Bears are after 7 games under Ben Johnson?
Take and I don't know if you have take and check the rushing stats, and it started with DeAndre Swift. I don't know if it was ankle or knee issues at the injury report in the middle of the week. That turned me off completely. They have to run the football for 125 or 30, 40 to win a football game. You don't have an elite offensive line that you can protect your quarterback. Who does he throw? It really hurt me early that they ran boot early and he made some great throws, and then they got away from it after the Ravens adjusted. And if they did, and he needs to get better, and he will. And I'm not a Caleb Williams apologist, but I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know if he's a great quarterback yet, but they'll get better. They need to stop the run. And the other part of it is finish drives, Maddie. I mean, if they get up 14 donut instead of 6 bagel, it's a different football game.
Yeah.
And that killed them.
Yeah, 100%.
And cover kicks.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like the Ravens were starting, it felt like they were starting from midfield the entire game or better. With that being said, I watched the game. I didn't have a game to watch because the lines were off, and that's the one I focused on. And Johnny, I'm telling Bears fans this in a positive way. It looks so much like the Lions did. I mean, with the crossing routes and the running game, and they came out and they wanted to run the football, and they did in the first couple drives. And then I don't know why, but they stopped, Johnny. Like at one point in the third, late third quarter, I texted some buddies. I'm like, what's going on with DeAndre Swift, because he had 5 carries. And it was like almost three quarters. And I knew the injury thing was the thing, but he ended up with 11 carries, 45 yards. So they had rushing attempts. They had 23, and they threw the ball around 38 times. That's not what the Bears want to be doing. That's not what Ben Johnson wants to do. And I know Caleb had the almost 300 yards passing, all that, but he had the interception that was bad. He still is a work in progress. And it's silly if anybody wants to say he's not good enough and it's not going to happen, which it might not, but like I would say, check out Baker Mayfield, check out Jared Goff, check out Daniel Jones. So it's too early to say it's bad. And there's no way you can say he's a no doubter, because he has kind of struggled a little bit in certain areas. He's been good in some areas as well. I'm not saying that. It's just a mixed bag from him. I'll say this, Johnny, the reason they didn't win the game is because instead of taking the ball away 4 times, they gave it away once. And I think the 4-game winning streak, it's easy to win games when you're taking the ball away 3-4 times a game. And that didn't happen this week. I think it's fascinating. Next week, they go to Cincinnati, who just gave away a game to the Jets.
Gave it away.
And then they get the Giants. And I think what I would say to Bears fans, and nobody cares what I think, especially Bears fans, but be patient. It's not going to change overnight. And you can say this has changed. The running game's better. They've won games they're not that they're not supposed to, but they've won games they wouldn't have won last year. So there's a lot of things. They got the coach right. And I think you just have to be patient, because he's not where it wants it to be. It's a journey. It's not going to be done overnight. And they're going to, the work in progress. You don't flip a switch. and turn into, and I'm not saying this as a Lions fan, but you don't flip a switch and turn into the Lions offense. It takes time. And I think it's going to take time for them. But 4-3 after 7 weeks, you can't be upset if you're a Bears fan.
Did you think, and I'll pose this question to you, did you think Ben Johnson took that job only for the $13 million a year?
No, because I think he could have gotten, yeah, exactly. He could have gotten that from a lot of.
He could have got it anywhere he wanted.
The other big finalist was the Raiders, and that was yuck. And the Jets, no, Washington wanted him the year before, and he was flying there to check it out, and he ended up deciding in the plane that he wanted to do it, and they turned around and came back. My son asked me the same question. Why did he go to the Bears, Dad? Just on Sunday. And I'm like, because it wasn't just Caleb. I know he liked Caleb, and God bless him. Who am I to say Caleb's not? If Ben Johnson thinks he's good, who the hell am I to say that he's not? But I think he also, same thing. I think he liked the parts around him. I think he liked the Roma Dudze and the DJ Moore, and he knew DeAndre Swift. And so I think he liked the situation. And also, there's an ego to people. And if you turn it around in Chicago, wow. I mean, you know that. I mean, Dick knows that, Yeah. But if you go to Las Vegas and turn around like the Vegas, it's not the same. I think he loved the fact that it was Chicago. You're a legend if you turn that place around. And he liked Caleb as well.
His best running back is the complimentary back in Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, he'll change that.
On the Bears.
He'll change that, Johnny. And I remember when they had DeAndre Swift, when the Lions had DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams set the franchise record for touchdowns in a season. And anybody listening to this, listen to what I just said. Jamal Williams set the Detroit Lions rushing touchdown record. You know that guy named Barry Sanders that played there all the time? He had the most touchdowns in a season. And that offseason, they said, we don't want him. They got rid of both of them, and they went and got David Montgomery, and they went and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, and they went from being a good rushing attack to the best in the league. Cool. That's what Ben Johnson will do. I know people like DeAndre Swift, and I think he's a serviceable back, a good back. I mean, not even serviceable. He's a good back, but Ben Johnson's not here to be good or to be serviceable. He will upgrade any position that he feels like will help his offense. And I believe running back, the starting running back for the Chicago Bears next year is not on the roster right now. I fully believe that 100%. So NFL stuff is extremely interesting. They're 4-3. They're one game back of the Lions. There's a lot of things that can go on and all that kind of stuff. But I think a little dose of maybe reality where this Bears team is right now. It's not bad, but it's probably not playoff level yet. We'll see what it is by the end of the year. We'll see what it is, but I think they have the work to do for that as well. High school football, fun time of year. The postseason's ready in Iowa. It's ready to go in Illinois. I'm going to start in Iowa with you because I know that's where you were at on Friday. You look at these brackets and there's nobody in 5A from the Quad Cities. And that's not trying to be negative or throw people under the bus, all those kind of things. And I'll say this too, some schools move down from 5A to 4A, so maybe not as many. But with that being said, I was at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday, and media members, some people from the Iowa City area, some Des Moines people were like, Daz, what's going on? Like, you look at the 5A bracket, and there's nobody from there's nobody from anywhere but Iowa City area, the Iowa Cedar Rapids area, and Des Moines. It's all right there. Is that the way the state wants it?
I'm afraid or scared that might be it. Again, I think Bettendorf and PV would be dominant in 4A. Again, those two programs. This is the first time, as we said, since 1997 that Bettendorf and Pleasant Valley are not in the playoffs or in the playoff at the same time, and or one or the other. Yeah. So, two of the best programs around. This is just one of those fluctuations. I'll use that with Bettendorf. I think this is just one of those ebb and flow type things. Phenomenal football coach, phenomenal program, does everything the right way. They'll be back. That's not going to last. And on the other side, you know how big a fan I am of Rusty Van Wessing. So that goes without saying. As a person and as a football coach, they finished 5-4, and they had a couple ball games early that got away from them. But you're right. I don't know if the state enjoys not having the eastern part of the state represent. I really, and I'm throwing no shade because of the work that the state tries to do, because that's always our out. We blame the IHSA in Illinois, and we blame the IHSAA or whatever it is in Iowa as they're the scapegoats. But I think they don't have a problem with your Corridor, your Cedar Rapids teams, and the Des Moines teams being good. And they are. But my goodness, it's just not right for me to see, and in 5A, to see Aaron Wiley or Rusty Van Wetsing on this coming Friday night and doing what they do best. Yeah. So, again, two of the best. I want them next year to be 8-1, 7-2, whatever it takes for them to get back to the playoffs. But hey, hats off Adam Height, hats off North Scott, etc. For making that turn. And Maddie, did we ever think we'd be? And I know I saw you and you talked with him. Did we ever think we'd be talking about Davenport North football and 6 wins?
Yeah. No, it's been awesome. It's been awesome what he's done. Adam Height was on last week. Program's all-time winningest coach now, and I know he doesn't care that much about that. That's not why he got into
it.
They get to play another postseason game, which is great. I will say real quick about 5A. I think the High School Athletic Association wants the best 16 teams in 5A to be there, and I don't think they care where they're from. So I don't know, and that's what they would say to Bettendorf and anybody on this side of the state, or the other. Like they would just say, become one of the top 16 teams, and you're going to get in. So, and maybe they weren't this year. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's so strange, and I'm saying this very, very sincerely. People came up to me in the press box in Iowa City, and they were like, "What's going on?" I mean, it's just strange. It's different. I'll say this: congrats to Davenport North. Congrats to Central DeWitt. There's some smaller schools. I'm not going to get into everybody, but we were at North Scott on Friday for the show, and they now go on the road. But to beat a North team with that type of firepower, 24-3, and allow them 3 points, is really impressive. Watch North Scott, Johnny. Like what? It will not surprise me if they find their way to the Unidome. I would not be surprised one bit because I think North Scott's a really good football team. Some struggles early on that they got through, and like I said, some of their losses, like to lose to Pella by one score. Pella's one of the best teams in the state. Like they're good. Absolutely. They can beat anybody any given day. I know they love their talent. So North Scott, congratulations to them as well. On the Illinois side, Johnny. There's a bunch of teams from our area, and I know Moline has a home game. We can't talk about all of them. But when you look at all of that, and I go back to the Quad City viewing area. So that's my WQAD viewing area, what I grew up doing and all that kind of stuff. What team from around this area has the chance to go the farthest? And it's been a while since anybody's played for a state championship from our viewing area. Does anybody have that chance this year to do that?
Start with hats off to UT, Moline, etc. Sterling, Geneseo. What a great job Coach Furlong has done. Okay, the team, and you're going to talk to Coach Welch, and phenomenal what he's done there. Okay, Rock Ridge. Maddie, I'd like to find that football team that is going to, and they always, Coach Graves does a well job, but they always win one, maybe two games every year when they get in. They're one of those guys. They're a quarterfinal team or a 16 team all the time. This is exceptional. They are fun. And I saw what they did to Newman. And I thought Newman was one of the better teams at that level. Oh, hats off to Riverdale as well. But take that a step further. I don't think, I don't want to jinx them, but I think they play for a state championship. They're that good.
Johnny, I've been covering that school for a long time, and they've had really good football teams. I think this is the best football team Rock Ridge has had while I've been covering them. Now, I know they go back there's the 98 team, I think it was, that lost in the state championship game to Aledo, and I'm not getting into all, but since I've been covering them, I think this is the best, and that's 25 years. I think this is the best Rock Ridge team. And I think it's not just because they can sling it all around the park, because that's not Coach Mark's favorite thing in the world to do.
But they
can do that at an elite level. But they can also run the football, and they also can play defense. And that kind of stuff still travels very well in November. And they're physical and fast. I think, and Johnny, I go back to I'm going to mess up the year. I think it was 2014, where we were down there for Stockton in 1A, Mercer County in 2A, and Alleman in 4A. And that was normal. There was a year we went to DeKalb, and it was Newman in 2A and Geneseo in 4A. So we had like a game off. Like we were used to those kind of things going there. Morrison had a great run. Mercer County and the Elite, all that kind of stuff. It's been a long time since the media in the Quad Cities has had to cover football on a Black Friday, besides going to Iowa City for Iowa and Nebraska. I think it happens this year. Like you said, we're not trying to jinx them or anything, and they're not listening to this. Well, I hope they are. But I know they got work to do and all that kind of stuff. But I think it is there's some other teams that I'm intrigued by as we move on through the postseason. But I think Rock Ridge has to have the best chance in our area to make a long postseason run. Johnny, this has been fun as usual. I was going to talk to you a little bit about the proposal for playoff or for region football in Illinois. We'll wait till after the football season's done, because that's a whole different box of stuff to get into. So I appreciate you as always. We'll see you back here next Monday, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Love you, pal. Thank you.
All right. That is John Marks joining us, as he does every single Monday right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. It's a Marxy Monday. So, and you know what? We have opinions. A lot of people not agree with them, but we have opinions, and they're fun to talk about right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. It's a Monday in the Quad Cities. We got more to get to right after this. Welcome back. A quick break before we kind of wrap things up for a Monday. Another fun show. We want to thank Tyler Tachman from the Des Moines Register for joining us, talking Iowa football and a whole bunch more. Also, thank you to the local coaches as well. UT's Nick Welch and Clay Waterbury from Central DeWitt for joining us. John Marks as well in the last segment. A busy Monday, a busy week to get to. Coming up, no Pat Angerer today. I'm actually wrapping things up quickly. We are talking at a Rotary event coming up early this afternoon, so I got to get on the road. But Pat will join us tomorrow to talk a little Iowa football. Also working on Brock Harding, possibly for tomorrow, on the show as well. Brock, a nice exhibition game. The former Maroon standout, looking good for TCU. 13 points, 11 assists versus Texas recently. So working on that, plus several other things. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I want to try to preview at least one or two high school football games every day. So we will do that. Maybe Geneseo tomorrow is the hope. So anyways, a lot more to get to throughout the week. I want to thank our guests today. I want to thank you guys for watching wherever you were. A lot of people on X. YouTube was great as well. So thank you guys for joining us, and also thank you to our fantastic sponsors who allow us to do this each and every day right here in the Quad Cities. We'll be back for another show coming up tomorrow. We'll see you then.